did a little while ago, and I'm watching a YouTuber called Nut and Fancy, and sometimes I agree with what he says, sometimes I don't. Guns are basically like the battle of the car maker. Some people are Chevy guys, some guys are Ford guys, and it can get really ugly. I can tell you, if you're just starting out in the world of firearms, stay the hell out of forums. Forums are one of the most toxic places you can be. You got people who are gatekeepers, meaning people who are like, oh, well, you don't like Glock and you don't belong here. And then they just gang up on you. When you try to speak truth to them, they don't want to listen. You're not going to find your answers in forums. So the title of this video is 300 Black. Is it worth it? In my opinion, it is. If you're shooting a 10.5-inch barrel or under and you suppress it. The simple fact of the matter is 300 Blackout was designed by AAC and Remington because some special operators in the Army asked for a cartridge that could be fired from an AR-15 with a little bit more oomph, okay? Most guys will go out and they'll like, I'm just trading in my 5.56 and my 223 and I'm going with 300 Blackout. This is where we fall into marketing. Now, my college classes were on marketing and business. They'll come out with something new to get everybody excited, and then they'll go and they'll go buy stuff. You know, they're not always about your Second Amendment rights. They're about the money, okay? If you're going to shoot it suppressed, and a lot of guys will go out and they're like, I'm going to get 300 Black. It's the coolest thing out there. So-and-so on YouTube said so. Or so-and-so in the forum said so. And then like, I'm going to suppress it. And they really want to suppress it until they go to the FFL and they see the price of the suppressor is more than the gun that they're putting it on. And then they got the $200 tax stamp. Now they end up with a 10.5-inch barrel or shorter with 300 Black. It's louder than balls. And you're not getting the performance from a 300 Black unsuppressed that you get with a 5.56 and a 223. You might get just a tiny bit, but not enough to justify $1 a round. So you have to look at the philosophy this way. If it hits the fan, my outlook, I'm going to start calling this IMO, in my opinion. When it hits the fan, what you really want is what's most popular. In a handgun, the most popular round available is 9mm. That's inarguable. The most popular rifle is a 223 5.56 AR-15. You could argue that an AK-47 is as well, but we'll get to that in just a second. But the 300 Blackout was trying to find an answer for a Russian 7.62 by 39 in an AR platform. And the problem was that Russian round, at the wrong angles, it would cause jamming unless you had a specific lower and a specific magazine. They also wanted it to run quiet suppressed. So AAC and Remington came up with the 300 Black. Now, if you run 300 Black suppressed in a short barrel rifle or pistol build, it's great. But here's the problem. There's not a lot of it out there. Even though it's been out for a while and there are arguably a lot more shooters going to 300 Black, when it hits the fan, you are still going to find more 223 and 5.56 laying around. Sadly, it might be on somebody that's not needing it anymore. You can pick it up off the ground, throw it in your vest, and you're rocking. That's why you want like a 9mm. Now, do you want it for home defense? Sure, there's nothing wrong with 300 Black in home defense, but you're not going to want to shoot 300 Black in an SBR in the confined spaces of a residential home. You're going to blow your eardrums out. I'm telling you guys. Another thing is that the 300 Black is a heavier bullet, but it's only pushing, and I'm just going by what I see in the case length. It looks to me about a third less powder charge than an AR. So you have less boom, pushing more ass down the barrel, trying to get that range that you're going to get. If you shoot a 300 Black suppressed, you probably will see 300 to 400 yards out of it. A lot of guys are shooting 300 black out of 16-inch barrels, and these guys are the guys that are killing hogs. I've killed hogs. Hogs are hard to kill, dude. They got a head like a steel bucket, and it's great for them. Are you going to hunt deer with it? Technically, you can. But I can think of a lot of other cheaper rounds that you don't have to do a whole lot of changing your lifestyle and your shooting for that are way better for deer. 243 is better for deer. Valkyrie would be better for deer. If you're going for elk or something, you want 6.5, maybe a 6.5 Creedmoor. That'll work good. But trying to go to 300 black and throwing everything you got else away, you might find out that if you don't kick in that extra grand for the can and the $200, and granted, there are cheaper cans, I get it, but most of your silencer codes and stuff like that, they're going to end up running you. Here's the thing. When I suppress that 9mm pistol build that I've showed you in my videos, that Wilson Combat, when I suppress that, here's my mode of thinking. I want a Silencer Co. 36M suppressor because I can shoot my 9mm through it and it'll go on both of my 5.56 rifles. So I can use one suppressor, run it on all three rifles with no problem whatsoever, because I'm sure as hell not going to go out and buy $3,000 worth of suppressors. It's just not worth it. I won't go out and get 300 black because, for the main reason, I'm of the school of thought, IMO, that the ammunition is, one, way more expensive, two, harder to find, because when we went through this ammo scare, all these guys that switched over to 300 black, when they found it, they bought it. Three, when it hits the fan, there's not going to be that much out there laying around on the ground, so now you've got a boat paddle, a very expensive boat paddle. My opinion is, if you're thinking about 300 black and you have the ability to suppress it on an SBR, do it. Because that's what it was designed for. It was not designed for a 16-inch barrel, wasn't designed for an 18 or a 20-inch barrel. It was designed for 10.5 and below, suppressed, to get that performance with a heavier bullet. Now, if you shoot it unsuppressed, can you get 300 black out to the 400? Yeah, if you heave it. I can see you lobbing it, but you're not going to get the speed or anything else. Now, if you want to reach out that distance, it would make sense to use a higher pressure, which is the 5.56, and it's a faster round. Two, the 5.56 is equally deadly for self-defense, and a lot of people will say that it will go through the body and just cause these small wounds. It's the ammo you're shooting. It's not the caliber. Hornady makes Hornady Tap, and I've shown that before. Tap, 3,000 feet per second. I mean, that's freaking smoking, bro. I mean, that's like, that sucker is cruising. So it stands to reason that the lighter bullet is going to be a little bit more susceptible to wind drag than the 300 black. So if you do the shorter barrel suppressed with the 300 black, you're going to reach out to those distances. It's a heavier bullet. It's not going to be as affected by wind. That's where it shines. But if you do it unsuppressed, you're not going to get that much out of it. Here's the reason. A suppressor contains most of the burnt gases and powders that are going down in the suppressor. So, other than what's weeping up through your gas block to work your bolt, and we'll get to that in a second, you got more power and more oomph behind that heavier bullet when it's suppressed. That's what gives you the distance of the 300 Blackout. So, if you take the suppressor out of that, you're blowing a lot of that gas that you would be pushing that big-ass thing down range, going out into nowhere. You're not getting what you would normally get. One of my instructors in the military said something that has stuck with me. There's no free lunch in physics. When you're messing with these guns, you have to understand physics doesn't change. If you've got a heavier bullet, you got to have the ass behind it to push it. So that's why it's better suppressed. In my honest opinion, if you go out and you get rid of all your 5.56 rifles and you run only 300 black and you're going to run it unsuppressed, you're not getting anything out of it except for a heavier price point and the pain in the ass of trying to find the ammo in stock. It has come down a little bit, I'll give you that. But we're probably looking, instead of like $1 a round, I saw it get as high as $1.25 a round. It's down to about 81 cents a round. So you can pretty much pick up like your run-of-the-mill, really cheaper, 300 black. You can pick that up for probably about $40 a box for 50 rounds, somewhere around in there. But the point, that's if you can find it. But the point is, if you're not going to suppress it and you're not going to put the money out to suppress it, look, I'm 54. I've been dealing with firearms for almost 36 years, even longer than that, if you count like when I was a teenager and a kid hunting with my dad and my grandfather. Okay, I'm talking like from military, I was about 36 years ago on up to what you see in me today. The trick to this is to get as much out of it what you want it to do. And nothing fancy, and I don't agree with him a lot of times. And a lot of it is opinion. He's not necessarily wrong. He's coming at from his opinion. I'm not necessarily wrong. I'm sure there's some people that'll watch this video and they're like, you don't know shit about guns. Da, 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 da. That's their opinion. My opinion is no free lunch in physics. If you're pushing that heavy bullet with that lower power shot, then you're not going to get the performance. You're just not going to get it. If you're going to fire 5.56 or 2.23 out of a regular AR-15 and you put like a polymer tip bullet, or if you're going to spend that money on a bullet that will fragment, then you're getting the wound channel that you need out of that bullet. But if you're going to shoot M8, what is it? M855, the steel cord jacket bullet that the military was using for the longest time, it's just going to go real fast and go through something, and it's not going to be that big of a wound channel. That round was designed to go through light armor, like an unarmored Humvee door, or through like residential walls and that sort of thing. And that's where it shined. But a lot of the military, they're not using 300 black. So certain SOCOM units are using 300 black, but they're suppressing it. And that's why it was designed. So you have to think about it on that level. One, is it worth it to me to put that suppressor on and have that tax stamp? Two, am I going to be able to find it? And three, is it going to be more expensive? And four, when I have to use it, God forbid we get in a situation where we have to defend ourselves, is it going to be around? So if you want to buy a 300 black, don't get rid of your regular 5.56 2.23s. Keep them. Don't trade them in just to get the 300 black. Shoot it until you turn purple in the face. By all means, have fun with it, but treat it for what it is. I was looking through the history before I got on here, so I didn't talk out of my hind end. And on AR15.com, you can find some guys on AR15.com forum that are very knowledgeable. You see a lot of idiots too. And I'm saying that probably most of those guys are like, oh, well, yeah, you can do this, but you need to do the 300 black. Those are the guys that went out and bought 300 Blackout with the intention to suppress. And then when they found out how much it cost to suppress it, said, hell with that. So they're either trying to justify the money they spent, or they're trying to defend the decision that they made. So, I don't know. I mean, me, I'll never have 300 black. I don't need it. Even though I will have that suppressor running both on my 5.56s and my 9mm, I could build a 300 black upper because I'll have the suppressor that will run the 300 black upper. I just don't see the point in it. I'm not hunting hogs. For deer, I'm going to use something entirely different, and I'm going to reach out with something heavier than that for something like an elk. I'm too old. I don't hunt anymore since my dad died. My hunting partner's gone, and I just haven't had the want to go out and hunt. That's one of Dad's deer right there. Now, that deer was taken with a .243 Remington. Okay, just plain Jane $300 243 Remington rifle. That's what he took that deer with. The other head I haven't hung up yet. That one was also with, I think that was a 30-06 that he killed that deer with. Winchester 30-06. I believe it was a lever action Winchester, which they talk about as a good brush gun. Short, you can get through the thickets where deer are and that kind of thing. But if you're going to hunt something like bear or you're going to hunt hogs, 300 Black's badass. I mean, it'll flat out lay them down. But you need to suppress it. And then you need to make sure that you can have 300 Black. And you have to make sure that your state allows you to hunt with it. And you have to make sure that your state allows a certain magazine limit. So all these different things that you have to look out to be legal. I just personally, in my opinion, I don't think it's worth it. But I hope you guys start asking some questions. I need to start putting this channel back together again. I miss it. I miss fellowshipping with you guys. Once I get some word back from some of these people, we're going to start bringing the airsoft stuff in so I can prove to people that the airsoft stuff is just as good for real steel. Let me mention it one more time before I go. Magpul PTS, okay, professional training systems that a lot of airsoft guys buy, is the same damn thing as an MOE stock. If you go to like Airsoft GI or EVIC or any other airsoft retailer and you get a Magpul CTR stock PTS, here's the thing. I worked in Western Kentucky for a company called Lear. And what Lear did was blow molding. So you had this big, huge machine with these two halves of a mold, and we made stuff like consoles, seat backs, that kind of thing. And you got this windpipe that comes down. So this big sheet of molten plastic comes down, the mold closes, the tube goes in and blows air out to both sides. And after a few seconds, it opens, it brings it out, and there's the molded part. A lot of companies use injection molding. And I'm not sure, but I would say that Magpul probably predominantly uses injection molding. That's even more expensive than blow molding. Those molds that we made, those parts for cars, Toyotas, Chevy, those molds were $500,000 per side. I saw people walked out and fired because they were in there messing, usually process techs, and the mold closed on them on a screwdriver or something and scarred that mold, fired them. Because now they got to pay another $1 million if they can't fix the mold that they already have. And it's probably going to cost them half as much as it did to make it, to fix it. So Magpul's not going to go out and buy a whole new machine and a whole new mold. I would like to think, in my opinion, that Magpul's taken an old machine that they don't use for primary production anymore, maybe an old mold that they fixed to where it still looks nice. They set it up in another part of their plant, and they're running those CTR stocks. They're running those ACS stocks. They're running the MOE stuff, the pistol grips. And they're running those in older machines because they're going to get as much money out of that stuff as they can get. I can tell you that I myself have ran, personally, airsoft Magpul PTS parts on a real AR-15 for years. I've taken the two apart. I've looked at both of them separately. Put calipers, same thickness, same material, same manufacturing process. Some websites will sell you the PTS stuff for just as much money as the real steel stuff that you get at your local FFL gun shop. So sometimes it's not, it's not cost effective. But you can find stuff like airsoft rails. Like I've seen, Daniel Defense Mark 18 rails are like $300, right? All right, I would run them on a gas blowback airsoft rifle. And I used them for training because it was cheaper. The barrel nut would not work on a real steel upper. So I happened across in a trade with this kid for this Mark 18 rail. I simply contacted Daniel Defense and I said, I need an MK18 barrel nut. They're like, okay, $50. So I went and I spent the $50. They sent it to me. I put it on my reel steel, and guess what? That PTS Daniel Defense Mark 18 rail bolted up to it, and I ran it like a champ for the longest time. It worked. There's ways around it. And one thing about this channel that I want to get through to guys, from the marketing sense, what they taught me in college is if you can come up with something snazzy with bells and whistles to get a guy's attention or make it the next cool thing, they will go and they will spend their rent to buy it. And that's the truth. That's the truth. And they'll say, oh, we're veteran owned, or we're all about your Second Amendment rights. They're about making that money. And there's ways around it. Your rifle build, and there's beautiful stuff out there. Daniel Defense makes a great gun. FN makes a great gun. Colt's my favorite. There's all kinds of great factory-made guns out there. But when you start looking into it and you realize that a lot of those parts are farmed out, I talk about Anderson, okay? I'm right here in Kentucky. They're less than an hour up the road in Hebron, okay? Anderson, the thing what makes Anderson cheap, it's not cheap quality, it's cheaply priced, and here's why. Anderson makes about 75% of their revenue by making parts for Smith & Wesson, Spike's Tactical. All their lowers are made by Anderson. They make all these parts and they send them out. I'm talking about your safety selectors, your mag releases, your bolt releases, trigger guards, all that stuff. They make it for other companies. They send it to them. They assemble the rifle with their name on it, and they sell it to you for $800, $900, or $1,000. Sorry, I've got a low battery thing there. But they'll sell it to you for that jacked up money. But what makes Anderson such a great company is they will sell directly to you. So if you buy an Anderson lower, and if you're ashamed that somebody at the range is going to say, oh, look at you, your cheap lower, don't worry about that. They sell you one without the horse on it. So nobody has to know, right? And you put in a good trigger, you put in a good bolt, you put in a good barrel. Dude, I've seen some Anderson rifles that run like a smoke wagon. I mean, just shoot nice because the guys put in it what matters. What makes Anderson cheaper is the fact that they do sell to people like Aim Surplus, JSE, but guess what happens? They put a markup on it and sell it to you. You can go to Anderson and buy that lower for like 30% cheaper. You can go over there now, I bet you, and find it for $40. So what are you going to do? You're going to send it to your local FFL. You have to because it's serialized, right? So the only thing you have to pay is a transfer fee. And if your local FFL is charging you more than $15 for a transfer fee, I say go somewhere else. Here's why. The FFLs get mad because they're like, well, why are you ordering this from Anderson when I've got it here for just $20 more and you don't have to worry about all the shipping? They're going to get their money out of it. They're pissed that you didn't buy it from them because, see, here's the thing. The FFL, they don't pay for a 4473 form. It's free. They don't charge, the ATF does not charge them to run a NICS 4473 background check. The only thing it costs them is the 10 minutes of their time to have you fill it out and them stand on the computer. And there is FFLs I've been to that want $50 for a transfer. Kiss my ass, that ain't happening. Especially when it doesn't cost you anything to do it. And the only reason you're charging me that much is because you're pissed I didn't buy it from you. Well, here's the thing. If you stock stuff on a regular basis that people want and you don't try to screw them in the hind end to get it, people will buy it from you rather than ordering it in. So if you want stuff that's very high quality, go to AndersonManufacturing.com. Look at their lower parts kit. Their mil-spec triggers are what the mil-spec triggers that Smith & Wesson uses. Spike's Tactical uses them. So they're going to charge you like $30, $40 for a fire control included lower parts kit where the guy down the road is going to charge you $80 for it. You can get an Anderson bolt carrier group, shot peened, HPT, micro particle tested, chrome lined, for $100. when the guy up the road's going to charge you 150, he's going to get his 50 because he doesn't want you to know that you can go get it directly from them. They'll mail it to your house. So all this stuff that you're doing building, just go to Anderson and get it. Because if you're going to go out and buy a factory M&P 15 Sport 2, which is a stellar rifle, okay? If you just don't want to build it and you want to pick up a stellar AR-15 that is like bang for your buck, that's a damn good rifle. It's a damn good rifle. But that being said, I'm going to jump off here for tonight, for the whole night. You guys let me know what you want to see, and I'll do the homework and contact these folks. And I plan on getting in touch with Anderson since we're so, and I'm going to tell him, hey, let's get rid of this negative stuff that you're going through, man. Let's put you on my live videos. Let's put you on my podcast when I get it going. And let's get these guys in the know. Love y'all. God bless you. Support and use your Second Amendment rights. For God's sake, use them before somebody tries to take them away from you. Love God. He'll love you back. Love each other. And you'll find out that people can just get along. Thanks a lot. See you guys next time.